Welcome into Pigskin Perspectives. It is time to recap a interesting weekend of football. I think Saturday we had a lot of good results. I think we had a lot of good games. Sunday we had a lot of disgusting games, to be honest. Like, there was just ugly football all around, and it kind of carried into Monday. But I mean, let's just get into all this. We'll do college and we'll get to NFL. As always, we'll take a look back at the six-pack that I gave you on Thursday, then look at the newest AP poll. I mean, we're starting to get to the season where, we are only a few weeks away from that first college football playoff ranking. So given that this is taped on a Tuesday, we'll be doing it after that. Let's just get into this. So let's take a look back at this six-pack. We'll start off first with the first game that I gave you, which was Ohio State traveling to West Lafayette to face Purdue. And I said, Purdue could give Ohio State a test here. Completely did not happen. Ohio State blow out Purdue 41-7. This was never a game. Purdue never was close. And I would say I'm surprised, but I'm not, even though I, hyped up the whole thing. This might be a trap game for Ohio State and all that. Ohio State came out and just dominated Purdue. It looked like an Ohio State team of old, and they just controlled start to finish. I mean, it's as simple as that. Kyle McCord looked really good in this game. I think he's starting to make that turn to what people expect him to be as an Ohio State quarterback. So, given that was a complete blowout, we'll move on to the next game, which I do kind of want to save for last just because it was the best game. But, we'll just go in order here. That's how we usually do it, so might as well go in order. Oregon traveled up to Seattle to face off against Washington. A amazing environment at Husky Stadium. The atmosphere was electric. The build up to this game was electric, and it all converged into one mega game that lived up to the hype. Washington defeats Oregon 36-33 in a game that was just pure beauty to watch. The battle of quarterbacks between Michael Penix Jr. of Washington and Bo Nix of Oregon. That was the big talk coming into this game, but it was just beautiful football. Both quarterbacks had amazing days. I think even though Bo Nix lost, I still think they're 1-2 in the Heisman race. I think there's a very real possibility we see these two play again in December, when it really matters, honestly. Obviously, the big talking point coming out of this game is Oregon going for it on fourth downs multiple times and just not converting, which ends up costing them the game. Dan Lanning, head coach, has said, put the blame strictly on him. If you're going for it on fourth down, your play calling that's what bothered me the most about this game. When Oregon went for it on fourth down, they would pass it on second down. Mostly pass it on second down. Sometimes they threw in a run play on second down. Almost consistently, they threw a pass on third down. And on fourth down, they threw another pass. Now, given the fact their running back was averaging 7 yards a carry, and you only needed 2 or 3 yards, the fact you don't run the ball either on third or fourth down, I don't know what you're doing. I think he completely botched the end of the first half situation. They were down at the 5, or somewhere between the 5 and the goal line. It was third down. You still have a timeout. You pass the ball incomplete. Fourth down, what do? You pass the ball and it's incomplete. Why do you not try to run it on third down if you don't get a called timeout and then run your pass? like, it just completely mind-boggling how some coaches just don't seem to get it. I don't get it, but I feel like there's, kids on Madden know how to do this better than some coaches, it feels sometimes. I just don't get it. But Washington now appears to be in the driver's seat for the Pac-12. Obviously, there are no divisions in the Pac-12 anymore, so like I said, there's a very real chance that these two teams meet again in December in Las Vegas in what would just be an absolutely astounding game if that were to happen. Moving on, Tennessee faced off against Texas A&M. Tennessee sneak away with victory here. It wasn't pretty. This game was kind of ugly. They win 20-13. Texas A&M kind of stayed in the game. They made it scrappy. Joe Milton looked terrible out there for Tennessee. And, Tennessee, they're an odd team. Because, they should be at the level they were last year, probably. Obviously, they lost Hendon Hooker. But they don't look good, at all. And, they're still going to have a good record because just the way their schedule played out, they'll have a good record, but it's just they don't look good doing it, I guess, is the best I could say. In the second best game of the weekend, it was Air Force hosting Wyoming. Air Force get the 34-27 victory. In a battle of G5 schools, they're going to be battling for, that group of 5 bid for the college football playoff, or not for the college football playoff, for a New Year's Six bowl game. And this game lived up to the hype. I hyped it up a lot because I feel like not a lot of people were talking about it just because, obviously, why would you when you have other more influential games, I would say, on the weekend. But this game, was really well played. Air Force and Wyoming both look like really good teams. The biggest thing coming out of this game is Air Force has lost quarterback Zach Larrier for a while. That's what Troy Calhoun said in the press conference after the game, which is worrying for a team that is undefeated right now. Kind of got there because of their quarterback. So Air Force now faces Navy this week, which that's always a tough test. So we'll see if Air Force can keep that undefeated season going after this weekend. In another game that was just an absolute beatdown, Notre Dame beats USC 48-20. USC, my oh my, they looked bad in this game. This was ugly doesn't even describe it. You're playing, obviously the conditions weren't great, but that's something USC is going to have to get used to. Come next year, they're playing in these conditions basically every other week, kind of. When you're at Notre Dame, you're in Big Ten country. You're getting Big Ten weather. And the fact that USC couldn't seem to deal with that kind of makes me worried about this transition to the Big Ten that they'll be making next year. They just did not look good at all. And then finally, Oregon State, having a stellar season, defeats UCLA 36-24. This was just a fun game to watch. It was on the same time as the Notre Dame game. So kind of flipped over to that when the Notre Dame game was being a blowout, obviously flipping back and forth, but more attention gets focused on other games when there's blowouts, obviously. So that's what happened with this one. Kind of a fun back and forth battle. Both offenses kind of showing out. Oregon State ends up with the upper hand here. And I'm not counting out Oregon State for making an appearance in Las Vegas either. It really does feel like this, I'd say it was a 7-horse race to start out the season of what two teams are going to end up in Vegas. We're starting to narrow it down. I think we're going to be down to 4 maybe, possibly 5. with those being Oregon, Washington, Oregon State. I think UCLA theoretically might be able to sneak in there, and Utah. You might notice I didn't add USC. USC I think is done for. They obviously they were on the road, all that. They haven't looked good the past few weeks, and I think it's all going to come to a head here. They still got a tough road ahead. They still have to face Washington and Oregon, and I believe Oregon State. And I don't see a path for them at all. They face Utah this weekend, which I think they'll lose that one. So given that is the 6-pack that we gave you on Thursday. So let's take a look at the AP poll, see how things changed out. Top 4 remain the same. Georgia kind of struggled with Vanderbilt. Obviously, the bigger news there. Brock Bowers, star tight end, most likely out for the year with an ankle injury, which is just absolutely awful to see. Michigan stays at 2 with an absolute beatdown of Indiana. And, I mean, you got to hand it to Michigan. When they face their opponents, there's really no doubt. They don't keep them in the game. They just blow them out. So congrats to Michigan on that. Number 3 is Ohio State. We already talked about them. Number 4, Florida State. They defeated Syracuse by a large margin. It kind of seems like these 4 kind of have the upper hand right now. I think Georgia's going to have some tough tests coming up, especially without Brock Bowers. So I think their position's a little shaky. Michigan, it's not going to really be a challenge for them until they face Penn State. Ohio State has Penn State this weekend, and Florida State, I think they got a straight run to the college football playoff. I don't think they really face anybody that's going to give them a challenge, so it seems like they are smooth sailing there. Washington moves up to 5 after that huge win over Oregon. Oklahoma moves down 1 spot. They had the bye week, so kind of makes sense there. Penn State moves down a spot. They defeated UMass handily, but Washington just jumping them. Obviously, things have to equal out, and Penn State drops a spot here. Texas moves up a spot, even though they were on the bye week. Oregon only moves down 1 spot to number 9 after the loss to Washington, which honestly, I think that they could have kept the 8 spot. I don't think they needed to drop a spot, but hey. North Carolina moves up 2 spots to 10. They had a big win over Miami on Saturday. Alabama stays at 11. They kind of struggled with Arkansas there at the end, but they stay put at 11. Oregon State moves up 3 spots after that win over UCLA. Ole Miss stay at 13. Utah moves up 2 spots to 14. 15 is Notre Dame. They move up after that huge win against USC. Duke moves up 1 spot after just a dismantling of NC State, which I didn't really see coming, but they controlled that game from start to finish. Tennessee moves up 2 spots after that win over Texas A&M. I don't think it was earned, but hey. USC moves down 8 spots to 18. Arguably could have been more there. LSU moves up 3 spots after a big win against Auburn. Missouri stays put at 20. Louisville drops 7 spots after they lose on the road to a Pitt team that had 1 win coming into this week. Obviously, that's an ugly, ugly loss. It's an ugly loss to have your first loss of the season. So quite ugly there. Air Force moves into the rankings at 22. Tulane move into the rankings at 23. Iowa, who's 6-1, big win against Wisconsin. The worst offense in college football. They are literally ranked 133rd out of 133. They sit at 6-1. They are favored in the rest of their games, which is all against Big Ten West opponents, I believe. They are on the fast track to Indianapolis, and theoretically, they're on the fast track to the playoffs too, which is just absolutely baffling. But remember, they got shut out by Penn State like 38-0, so you know what's coming in that Big Ten title game. And then dropping 7 spots is UCLA to 25. So given that was college football for the past weekend. That was there were some ugly games in there, but there were some really great games that really brought out the pageantry of college football. So now we move on to the Sunday League, where there were some really disgusting games, and it started out on Thursday night. And watching the Thursday night game kind of should have set the thoughts in place that, hey, this might be an ugly weekend of football, because it was. Kansas City Chiefs defeat the Denver Broncos 19-8. Like I said, it was an ugly game. I'm going to say that about a lot of games. They were a lot of ugly games. It just seems like offenses couldn't get going this weekend. I don't know why. Baltimore and Tennessee traveled over across the pond for the last London game of the year. Baltimore ends up with a 24-16 victory, but Tennessee just doesn't look good. Ryan Tannehill got injured in this game. It's obviously questionable that he'll be playing this week. Tennessee just doesn't look good at all. I don't think it's all because of quarterback play. I think some of it is because of quarterback play, but there's just a lot of bad spots on that team. Derrick Henry, he's kind of fallen off a little bit. He isn't the running back that he was when he got out of college. We'll just leave it there. He's not looking great. The Commanders go into Atlanta and defeat the Falcons 24-16. And more importantly, a stat that we brought up on the past few shows, Desmond Ridder loses his first home game as a starter since high school, which is just an absolutely insane stat that lasted this long. But the Commanders kind of controlled this game from start to finish. Desmond Ridder, we talk about that stat, but it looks like he's struggling making that transition from college to pro. And it looks like he might have been flung into that starting position a little too soon, even though, if you're getting drafted to the NFL, you got to be ready, basically. Another just ugly game here. The Minnesota Vikings travel down to Chicago in an NFC North battle, defeat the Bears. Bigger story, obviously, Justin Fields injured in this game, questionable for this week. Obviously, things seem to be getting worse for the Bears each week. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. They still do technically right now have the first 2 overall picks in the NFL draft for 2024, which that's always a good thing to look forward to, even though, obviously the circumstances of getting that pick means you're kind of bad. The Cincinnati Bengals, I'd say steal one from the Seattle Seahawks. I feel like Seattle was in this game most of it, but it was the Bengals that come away with a 17-13 victory. Something I didn't think I'd say on this show, the Cleveland Browns, yes, the Cleveland Football Browns defeat the previously undefeated San Francisco 49ers 19-17. I'm still stunned. Jake Moody misses a field goal at the end of the game, cost the 49ers the win. It is, 2 days later? I still don't really know how a P.J. Walker-led offense defeated the San Francisco 49ers. I know how the San Francisco 49ers were defeated. It was a Jim Schwartz-led defense that just looked absolutely outstanding. This defense is so, so, so good. I really don't know how to put it. It's feels like we're kind of wasting a very talented defense because of I won't say they're fully inept. They're not a fully inept offense. There are weapons there. It's just the offense doesn't seem like they can just figure anything out, honestly. It's just, it looks like it's been a struggle for them all year. Kind of cost them some games. And yeah, I'm still stunned that the Browns won this game. Absolutely unbelievable. I'm going to officially put a label on this. The Dolphins are the funnest team in football. They defeat the still winless Carolina Panthers 42-21. As I said, Dolphins are the funnest team in football. They are such a fun team to watch. Mike McDaniel figured out something there. They got this gravy train rolling down the tracks at 100 miles per hour. This thing is... They're a Super Bowl contender, I think. I think they are. Looking at the AFC, I mean, the Dolphins are really, really good. They're really fun to watch. Obviously, the big games are coming up as we get later and later on in the season. The bigger games are coming, but as of now, the Dolphins are such a fun team to watch as they controlled this game from the second quarter on, because the Panthers did have a 14-0 lead. The Dolphins started slow. Panthers got in this game, and then the Dolphins were gone. They were just gone. The Indianapolis Colts traveled to a place they haven't won since 2014. They travel there once a year. They lose, and that's what they did again. They lose in Jacksonville to the Jaguars, 37-20. Gardner Minshew, his return back to Jacksonville, obviously as starter for Indianapolis. Not great at all. Indianapolis, I don't know what it is about Jacksonville with them. They can't seem to figure it out there. I mean, that's the long and short of it. They just can't seem to figure it out there. The Houston Texans continue a stunning run, at least to me, a stunning run. I thought that they'd be down there fighting for a top 5 pick this year to continue their rebuild. They're not. They might win the South. They look really good. They defeat the New Orleans Saints 20-13. That's my biggest surprise of the year is this Houston Texans team. I don't think a lot of people thought this team would be good. I think there were a lot of questions about C.J. Stroud. I think those questions have been answered. He looks like a really good quarterback, and I'm honestly kind of stunned by it. I wasn't expecting a ton from him. I knew he would be good. I didn't think he would be this good. The Texans look like a very, very good football team right now. They'll win the South. I don't know if they go any farther than that, but they're just an interesting team to watch. I won't say fun because they do have some ugly games, but they're a very intriguing team to watch. Bill Belichick traveled to Las Vegas to face off against his former offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels gets the upper hand again as the Patriots fall to 1-5 and the Raiders take the victory 21-17. I really don't know how the Patriots have ended up this bad, honestly. They have not looked competent all year. They truly do look like one of the worst teams in football. I am just stunned by this, whole season. Mac Jones looks awful. I don't know how he's regressed this much. He doesn't look comfortable there at all. And the defense of the Patriots, like, what happened? That used to be the calling card of the Patriots. That stellar defense. There's nothing there. And the Raiders, this is still not a good football team, but they keep sneaking wins. And it kind of makes me worried that they're going to somehow make the playoffs, as the 7 seed wild card. But I don't think either of these teams are good. But I think there's a lot of questions that need to be asked about the New England Patriots right now. The Rams control the game against the Cardinals from start to finish. They get the 26-9 victory. The New York Football Jets defeat the previously undefeated Philadelphia Eagles 20-14. A ferocious fourth quarter comeback from the Jets get them the victory in this game. And there are now no more undefeated teams left in the NFL this season. The 72 Dolphins pop their champagne once again. Those of them that are left. And they celebrate another year of being the only undefeated team in NFL history. The Lions traveled down to Tampa Bay on Creamsicle Day, the return of the Creamsicle, first time since 2012. They spoil the party. Lions control this game from start to finish, get a 20-6 victory. The Lions are... I don't really know what the Lions are. Listen, I think it's a fun story. The Lions are good for the first time in life. They really haven't faced anybody. They faced the Chiefs. I give them credit for that. Obviously, there were extenuating circumstances with the Chiefs in that game. Travis Kelce, Chris Jones out of that game. But I digress. You play who you play on the field. The Lions won that game. You lost to a Seahawks team probably should have beaten. And then you've won 4 straight, I believe. Yeah, I really don't know. I have the feeling they're going to have the division locked up by Thanksgiving, just given how bad the division is. And by locked up, I don't mean actually clinched. I think they'll just be so far ahead that they know the division is theirs, and they'll clinch it a few games after Thanksgiving. It's when we get to the December and January months is when we find out what this Lions team actually is. I don't know. I think we'll find out something this weekend. They go to Baltimore to face the Ravens, but this Ravens team doesn't look good, so I don't know what to think of these Lions. I'm looking at the schedule. Theoretically, on schedule, there's no team on there they should lose to. I think that's how poor the teams are that they face. I mean, they still got half the division games left. Actually, more than that. The only team they faced is the Packers. So that's 5 more division games. If we just chalk those all up as wins right now, that just puts the Lions at 10 wins right there. Which obviously don't chalk those up as wins. Those can obviously fall apart very fast. But I don't know what to think of this Lions team, to be honest. The New York Giants, I should say, we got to watch them in primetime again, which was such a treat. They played the Buffalo Bills in a ugly game. Another ugly game. We just had to watch this. The Bills get a 14-9 victory. Like I said, ugly game. A ref show, because there were a few missed calls in this game that, favored the Bills not getting calls here. Sorry about it. There were, especially the last play of the game. Giants probably should have had another shot. Probably would have won the game. But here we are. And the Bills win another game. And then finally, another ugly primetime game. The Dallas Cowboys get a 20-17 victory over the Chargers. Just both these teams aren't that good. The Cowboys, I don't know. They're not good at all, but people will still say, oh, the Cowboys are back. The Chargers need a coaching change badly. Justin Herbert's career is getting wasted. And yet, here we are. Yeah. So given that is going to be it for Pigskin Perspectives, your full weekend recap. We will be back on Thursday for a weekend preview. So make sure you tune in for that. If you just stumbled across this video, hit like, hit subscribe. Tell anybody you know about this channel if you really enjoyed it. And we will be back on Thursday for another preview episode for this weekend ahead. We got some great games coming up. We really do. So stay tuned for that. We will see you next time on Pigskin Perspectives.